This is not just another story for your listening practice. This is a story for anyone who has ever felt that terrible, hot wave of shame that washes over you when you make a mistake in an English conversation. It's for that person who knows the words, who has studied the grammar, but in that critical moment feels their mind go completely blank. It's for anyone who has heard that quiet, cruel voice in your head that whispers, "Maybe I'm just not good enough for this." If you have ever felt that, then you know it's a feeling that can stop your progress completely. It makes you afraid to try again. It makes you want to hide. For years, I struggled with that feeling myself. I looked for solutions in textbooks, in apps, in more grammar rules, but the answer was never there. The answer, I discovered, was in a different place entirely. It was in a story. You see, the journey to speak English with confidence is exactly like building a bakery from scratch. In the beginning, it feels safe. You just repeat phrases you hear from others. It's like selling someone else's perfect bread. It feels productive, but you are not really growing. To be truly free, to express who you really are in English, you must learn to bake your own bread. You have to create your own sentences. And yes, in the beginning, you will burn the first ones. You will make mistakes. And accepting that is the most important part of the entire process. This understanding led me to a powerful new mindset, an approach I now call the baker's method for fluency. When you understand it, you will finally feel proud of your journey and earn the freedom to communicate with the world. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how it works by telling you the story of a young man named Tom. His story is your story. So, I invite you to listen closely. Stay with me until the very end, because Tom's story has a critical moment. A fire that almost destroys everything. How Tom reacts to that disaster. That is the secret that separates the people who reach fluency from those who give up. Let's begin his story. Before we dive into Tom's journey, let me tell you why this story and this mindset are so deeply personal to me. That hot wave of shame I mentioned? I know it all too well. It's a feeling I will never forget, because for me, my defining moment of failure happened in a small, glass-walled office during an interview for a job I had dreamed of for years. I was in a foreign country, and this was my big chance. On paper, I was the perfect candidate. I had the skills, the experience, and my understanding of English was, I thought, excellent. I could understand every question the manager asked. The problem wasn't my ears. It was my mouth. He leaned forward with a smile and asked a simple question. "So, can you tell me about a time you had to solve a difficult problem?" My mind went completely, terrifyingly blank. It was like a library full of books, but the librarian had just run out screaming, locking the door behind him. I could see the words in my head, floating around, but I couldn't connect them. I couldn't form a coherent sentence. I stammered. I said something generic, something weak like, yes, I solve problems with teamwork. The manager's smile faded slightly. He knew, and I knew, that I had failed. I walked out of that office feeling smaller than I had ever felt in my life. The voice in my head wasn't just disappointed. It was cruel. It whispered, "You see, you're a fraud. You'll never be good enough." That day, I realized something profound. All the hours I had spent with apps, memorizing phrasal verbs, and watching movies with subtitles had made me a fantastic spectator of the English language. But it had not prepared me to be a player on the field. The traditional methods had given me knowledge, but they hadn't given me courage. They taught me what to say, but not how to speak English when it mattered most. It was after that failure that my real search began, and it led me to the very philosophy I'm sharing with you today: the baker's mindset. This mindset is built on 4 foundational pillars, and in this English lesson, I am going to walk you through each one using Tom's story as our guide. The first pillar is the foundation, starting with the right ingredients. Before you learn a single new word, you must have the right foundation. And I'm not talking about talent. The most important ingredient for success is not natural ability. It's your reason why. It's the deep personal motivation that will keep you going when you feel like quitting. Without a strong why, any how will eventually fail. The story of Tom begins here, with his ingredients. He was a young man of 20, living in a small, quiet town. His family was struggling financially. His father was a mechanic. His mother cleaned houses. They worked hard, but it was never enough. Tom had big dreams, but he was surrounded by limitations. He felt stuck. One cold evening, he sat outside his small house, staring at the stars, and whispered to himself, "I want to give my family a better life. But how do I start when we have nothing?" The next day, he shared his dream with his father. His father sighed and said the words that would change Tom's life. "Son, dreams are not free. If you want something, you have to fight for it. Start with what you have, even if it's small." Tom's ingredient wasn't money or connections. His ingredient was a powerful, burning why: his family. That was his foundation. Now for your practice. Before you do any more English practice, I want you to find a quiet place and a piece of paper. Write at the top, "Why do I want to speak English?" Don't write, "To get a better job." That's a result, not a reason. Dig deeper. What will that job give you? Freedom? Respect? The ability to provide for your family? Find the real, emotional reason. This is your foundation. This is the ingredient that will never run out. The second pillar is the apprenticeship, selling someone else's bread. This is the imitation stage. No great artist, musician, or writer starts by creating a masterpiece. They start by copying the masters. In your English journey, this means you must give yourself permission to be an apprentice. Your first goal is not to be original. It is to imitate. You must learn the rhythm, the music, the English pronunciation of the language by shadowing those who have already mastered it. This is how you build a feel for natural English. This is exactly what Tom did. He didn't have an oven or the skill to bake. So what did he do? He used what he had, his courage. He walked for miles to the next town to meet the owner of a famous bakery, a grumpy old man named Mr. Anderson. Tom made a proposal. "Sir," he said with confidence, "I want to sell your bread in my town. I have no money to buy it, but if you trust me for 1 week, I will sell it, return your money, and keep a small profit." The old man was skeptical, but Tom's determination convinced him. He gave Tom the bread. Tom wasn't a baker yet. He was an apprentice. He was selling someone else's perfect creation. He would greet every customer with energy and a smile, using the simple script he had prepared. This first step was not glorious, but it was crucial. It got him into the game. Here is your call to practice. This week, I want you to begin your apprenticeship. Find a 1-minute video or audio clip of a native speaker whose voice you like. For the next 7 days, your only job is to do shadowing practice with this clip. Day 1 and 2, just listen. Let the sounds sink in. Day 3 and 4, whisper along with the speaker. Try to match their rhythm exactly. Day 5, 6, and 7, speak aloud with them. Don't worry about understanding every word. Your goal is to master the music of the language. This is active listening practice. The third pillar is the craft, baking your own bread. This is the creation stage. This is the brave leap from imitation to independence. It's where you take the ingredients, the English vocabulary you've learned, the grammar structures you've seen, and you begin to create for yourself. This is the most important and often the most difficult stage, because when you bake your own bread for the first time, you will almost certainly burn it. Your sentences will be clumsy. Your grammar will be flawed. You will make mistakes. This stage is not about perfection. It is about the courageous act of creation. It is here that you truly learn how to think in English. This was Tom's great leap. A customer suggested, "You're good at selling, but if you learn to bake, you'd make more profit." The idea excited and terrified Tom. He had no English skills in baking. He went back to the grumpy old baker, Mr. Anderson, and asked to be taught. The lessons began at 3 a.m. At first, Tom was a disaster. His hands hurt from kneading the dough. His bread came out as hard as a rock or too soft to hold its shape. One day, after ruining another batch, he sat down, covered in flour, utterly defeated. He said to himself, "Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I should just give up." But then he remembered his father's words and his why. He realized every mistake was a lesson. He went back the next day with even more determination. He practiced every single step carefully. And then, one morning, after 2 weeks of struggle, Mr. Anderson inspected a loaf of bread Tom had made, handed it to him, and said, "This is perfect. You're ready." Here is your speaking practice for this stage. I call it the 3-sentence journal. Every night this week, before you go to sleep, you must create 3 sentences in English. That's it. Sentence 1. Tell me one thing you did today. Sentence 2. Tell me one thing you felt today. Sentence 3. Tell me one thing you will do tomorrow. Write them down and then say them out loud. Do not worry about mistakes. The goal is not to create a masterpiece. The goal is simply to bake your own bread every single day. The 4th pillar is the marketplace, opening the bakery. This is the resilience stage. You can have a strong foundation, you can know how to create, but none of it matters until you face the real world. The marketplace is where you test your English skills against real-life pressure. It's where you have an unplanned English conversation, where you face comparison with other learners, and where you handle setbacks. Resilience is the skill that separates those who can speak English in a classroom from those who can use it in the world. Tom's journey was far from over. He opened his own small stand, and people loved his bread. But then, a new, big, fancy bakery opened in town, run by a young man named Eric. Tom's sales dropped. He felt that familiar fear. What if I lose everything? But instead of panicking, he listened. He asked his customers what they liked about the new bakery. He used his savings to improve his own stand. He learned to decorate cakes by watching videos. He adapted. He grew stronger. And then he faced the ultimate test. One stormy night, a small fire started in his shop, and much of his equipment was damaged. To many, this would have been the end. But Tom stood outside his smoking bakery the next morning and said, "This is just a challenge. I will not give up." He started baking from home again, with the little equipment he had left. His courage was so inspiring that the townspeople started to help. Some donated ingredients, others gave money, some helped him repair the shop. He reopened his bakery, and it was better than ever. The fire was not his failure. It was his graduation. It proved his resilience. Here is your challenge. This week, you must face a small, low-stakes fire. This is a real-world practice where the goal is simply to participate and survive. It could be ordering your coffee in English. It could be leaving a positive comment in English on a YouTube video. It could be joining an online English conversation group for just 5 minutes, even if you only say, "Hello." The purpose is not to have a perfect performance. The purpose is to face the heat of a real interaction and walk away realizing that you are strong enough to handle it. After I stopped being a passive student and started living by the baker's mindset, my world changed. A few months after that disastrous first interview, another opportunity appeared. I walked into that interview room a different person. Was my English suddenly perfect? Of course not. But I had my why. I had practiced my apprenticeship. I had baked my own messy, imperfect bread. And I had faced a few small fires. When the manager asked me the same question, "Tell me about a challenge you faced," I didn't freeze. I smiled. I took a breath and I told him a real story, creating the sentences as I went. I used the English vocabulary I had, not the vocabulary I wished I had. I told him about a difficult project, and I wasn't just talking. I was communicating. I was having a natural English conversation, and I got the job. The victory wasn't getting the job. The victory was that, for the first time, I felt free and authentic while I was speaking English. The moral of Tom's story, and of my story, is this: fluency is not a destination of perfection you arrive at. It is a skill of resilience that you build every day. It is the courage to show up and bake your bread, especially after you've just burned a batch. The journey to speak English with confidence is not that different from Tom's journey to build a life full of purpose and pride. You already have the most important ingredient: your own powerful reason why. So here is your first simple, concrete step. Don't try to do everything at once. Just choose one stage of the baker's mindset to focus on this week. Just one. Will you build your foundation by discovering your why? Will you begin your apprenticeship and imitate a native speaker? Will you start your craft and bake 3 simple sentences a day? Or will you enter the marketplace and face one small, tiny fire? Pick one. That is your only English lesson for today. Your journey starts not with a giant leap, but with one small, courageous step. And if this story and this approach resonated with you, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications. We don't just provide English lessons here, we provide the tools and the courage you need to build your own future. Thank you for your time.